I got it. I figured it out. Paul Feig? Is it Paul Feig?
Paul Feig, you're a fucking hack.
I mean, it's Paul Feig, right?
I think so.
I mean, I hear people say Paul Feig. Feige. And I don't like it.
Feig.
Paul Feig. I mean, you're leaving all this in, right?
I have come on a mission of gravest consequence. For I am the Watcher, member of an ancient race far older than man. But though our power is great, we are pledged only to watch, never to interfere. But now mankind faces the greatest danger it has ever known. The danger of
the Watchers of Earth. 199,999.
Welcome to the Watchers of Earth 199,999. I am your host, Andrew, and joining me as always is my co-host, Seth.
The co-host with the co-most.
Our third co-host, Joe, couldn't join us today because he is currently in a glass cage with the Collector, and our fourth co-host, Uatu, is here, but he is sworn only to watch and never interfere.
Except now he does. Because
now he does.
He intros the show and talks. Today we watched What If T'Challa Became a Star-Lord. Is it a Star-Lord? Or should it...
It says
like,
a Star-Lord.
I know, but it's just like... Peter Quill is just Star-Lord. Like, there's not like a bunch of Star-Lords. Anyways, this rough and tumble space pirates, known as the Ravagers, abduct T'Challa instead of Peter Quill. So, Andrew, what did I think? Because you wanted me to talk on these ones.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think this was better than What If Captain Carter was an Avenger. However, I don't think it quite... It still kind of reiterated the Guardians movies, or at least felt similar. Like, it's different. There's different stuff.
I will say, I have like a weird opinion on this one in that, like, I'm of two minds of this one. On the one hand, I feel like this one is telling its own story. It's doing its own thing. It's not, like, outside of that opening bit where T'Challa is stealing is it the Power Stone that they steal in the... When he's on whatever Morag and stealing the stone, outside of that bit, it basically just like diverges and does its own thing from there on.
That's fair.
I will say, however, I feel like it's also not as bad as the first episode, but it's kind of abbreviated and rushed and kind of crams a lot into a small amount of time. And I feel like this one feels like fan service.
This one has a lot more like, oh, I know that thing.
That and like, I feel like no character is the way that they're portrayed anywhere else, and I think the biggest offender is T'Challa himself. He's neither T'Challa nor is he Peter Quill, which is fine, but like when these are all going off of like Remember the Thing, this is going off of like how the fans remember T'Challa.
Yeah.
Not actually how he's portrayed. He's not super duper friendly in the movies. In fact, his first appearance is him like having a bloodlust to take down the guy who killed his father and fighting anybody who gets in his way. He's not super friendly. He's not really known for like anything.
This is like T'Challa. This is like T'Challa pretending to be Peter Quill.
I don't even think that. This is basically just like a thing that just said like everyone loves T'Challa. He's like a fan favorite character. Let's make him Peter Quill, but like better in every way because he's a fan favorite. But it sands off any edges. He's a completely different character. None of this is necessarily a complaint in and of itself, but it's just like, I don't really know what this one accomplishes. It feels like, I think it's also like, I know at the time that this was written and being recorded because Chadwick Boseman does voice T'Challa himself before he passed. This also almost feels like it was written in memory of him, where that just like turns him into, like T'Challa into a greater character than he was.
But it couldn't have been, because like you said...
Yeah, like I said, it couldn't have been, but that's what it feels like. This feels like something that's honoring his memory as opposed to the character he actually portrayed.
You had mentioned that, and I mean, maybe it was vaguer than I remember, but when I was complaining about how Captain Carter and Steve Rogers are kind of the same character, and so it being like, what if Captain Carter was Captain America? And it's just like, what if Captain America was Captain America? And you said, or at least I took away, that this is a different interpretation of Star-Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree that
Star-Lord who's not as scummy.
Yeah, I mean, this, like, I agree that this does not feel like... It feels like a different character, like you already said. And I agree that it feels like a different character than both Chala and Peter Quill. But I think the story itself... Like, here's my two minds thing, is that it's not rehashing the Guardians movies, but I feel like a lot of it feels like the Guardians movies.
I'll give you a bit of that.
Like, it's new stuff.
It's got Guardians tone. Like, I will say that. It's got the Guardians, like, kind of like, it's almost like you're watching a comedy movie, like an irreverent comedy, but not quite.
It's like the novel compared to the movie. You know what I mean? Where it's like, this is real similar, but it's different.
Let's go ahead and just, like, jump in. So, T'Challa is kidnapped by Yondu's crew instead of Peter because in this timeline, Yondu outsourced the kidnapping rather than doing it himself. They pick up the wrong kid. Instead of taking him home, he takes him out into space. The guy grows up to be Star-Lord, and he basically changes everybody's life around him.
For the better, because that's just the kind of guy he is.
It's super fan fiction-y and really annoying. I think the worst character is the guard at the beginning.
Yeah.
Who just like follows him around and is like a little fanboy. He's obnoxious.
It's like a write-in character. It's like a self-insert.
He is so annoying, and he just like keeps showing up in scenes and like basically like clapping his hands and being like, "Oh my gosh, Star-Lord, he's so great. Look at all the things he's doing. Classic Star-Lord." And I fucking hated it. The story itself is fine. It's like a little heist. It's fine enough.
Can we talk about this Chala characterization? We've touched on it. I mean, we've done more than touched on it. But, like, I mean, he is an altruistic Star-Lord.
Mm-hmm. Who changes the minds of everybody around him. He gets the Ravagers to stop being thieves and bandits, and instead
it's so
also
weird for them to be like, we're Ravagers, because they can't change the name because fans don't know a different name.
Because it's a fan service thing.
But he's like, we're Ravagers. But we don't ravage. We opposite ravage. We ravage them with love and helpful kindness. And it's just like such a weird juxtaposition. But yeah, like I was thinking, and this is nitpicky, and we nitpicked it in the first episode, where, you know, the Watcher has his big spiel and he's all high and mighty and he's like, here's the point of divergence. And it's like, okay, but like really Yondu now is just like, I went straight and now I just like give everybody money and we save planets and
look at how great my teeth are now.
And yeah, and Thanos is now like a good guy. And
the Thanos thing, I think, is the point that tipped it for me.
It's just like
early on when they're just like, here's Thanos, and I managed to convince Thanos, the guy who had a single-minded goal, who could not be deterred from it by anyone. T'Challa, the Star-Lord, managed to change his mind, and now he joined my crew, and then like all of his people join the Collector, and also like I'm best friends with his daughter. And
well, like the whole thing with Nebula, where like, so did Chala like he doesn't even convince Thanos to not get the Infinity Stones to do the snap. He convinces him to be a different person.
Yes, entirely.
And like, did he do that before he adopted Nebula and used her for parts? Because now she's like a hot supermodel.
I honestly don't know. Like, everything changes so drastically.
It's like the only difference in these universes can't be that they grab Chala. It has to be that also Thanos is nice.
One of the things is that we see that Drax is like a bartender because his planet was never destroyed and his family never died because T'Challa stepped in and saved his planet.
He's so good.
And I guess, I don't know. All that stuff is like whatever, but it's just like, and like he's like super well known so that like the guy sees him and he's like, oh my gosh, you're the Star-Lord. And this is like so funny and different from the movie where Star-Lord says, I'm Star-Lord. And then I'm like, I don't know who that is, you fucking putz.
But like none of it matters. None of it affects the story. It's just a weird, you know, you said it best. This feels like fan fiction. And the guard from the beginning feels like a self-insert. And it feels like
this feels like, what's the fan fiction AO3? What's the fan fiction website where everybody like posts their fan fiction?
I don't know, but I was thinking that too. Where it's like Chala, but he's in the Purge.
Yep. AO3, Archive of Our Own.
Do you think it's related to A24?
Yes.
I think that's what they did 21 things before they got to making indie movies.
It feels like they just took it straight off of that website. Like this hits every single fan fiction beat I've ever seen.
It's-
Short of like the guy being T'Challa's biggest fan, short of him like making out with T'Challa by the end. And they're also in like boarding school together. Like, it's just so, like I said, I think this episode's fine. It's fun enough. And honestly, like, if it wasn't, again, like everything else, if it wasn't part of the Marvel Universe, I think if this existed on its own as its own thing, if this was just like, instead of what if T'Challa became a Star-Lord, what if this was just like T'Challa the Star-Lord, and it was like unconnected to anything else, you know, T'Challa wasn't a character from something else, Star-Lord wasn't a character from something else, it was just like, this is our story about a bandit, like a space bandit.
He's not a space bandit. He's a space helper.
He's a space helper.
They keep mentioning Robin Hood stuff, but I don't think he does Robin Hood stuff.
He steals from the shrine and gives to everybody. Because he says he's going to use the Power Stone to, like, power
Save
a
a
sun or
planet.
something.
Yeah.
There's, like, a dying star or something. I don't remember.
But it's like the shrine. Who's on Morag? That's just like a thing, isn't it? Like, the security guards aren't there protecting that. They're there because Ronan sent them to get that, to do his plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're thinking a little bit too much on the Robin
I
Hood
am.
line. I will say, within this episode, he doesn't necessarily do Robin Hood things. We're just told that Robin Hood things happened in the past.
It's just a thing where I'm like, it doesn't feel, and I guess this is disingenuous, because
It
there is
feels
a
more
heist.
Lupin the Third,
There is a heist with the Collector.
where, like, he's stealing stuff, but then at the end he gives it back because it was all about the thrill of the chase, or someone needed it more. And, like, you know, Miyazaki, Lupin the Third.
But I agree that the story itself is not bad, and it's better than the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's too fan fiction-y for me.
Yes.
And I agree that, like, all the Marvel stuff weighs it down, and it's just, again, like you said, if this was just different characters, unconnected to anything, like, it's probably a fine story. But this episode was crazy, just like, I know that thing. That's Drax.
And I think part of it is because, like, I think this one might be the most I know that thing out of all of them. And I think part of it is just, like, going into space, there's a lot of options. But, like, you know, you see Drax, you see Nebula, you see Thanos, you see the Guard and Morag and the Power Stone, the Collector, Howard the Duck, Cosmo the cosmonaut dog, you know, the Dark Elves. Benicio del Toro is now, like, super jacked in this, and he summons,
'cause
like, a
it's
bunch
a
of
drawing.
weapons. Yes. He summons, like, a bunch of weapons, and he has, like, a Dark Elf saber. He has Captain America's shield for some fucking reason. He has
Bella's helmet.
he has Mjolnir for some fucking reason. I don't know how he has that, because he shouldn't be able to lift it. Unless
He's
like,
worthy.
unless somehow, because of the ripple effect of Star-Lord being T'Challa instead of Peter Quill, somehow Thor is also a better person and never had to be taught a lesson by Odin, so the hammer was never enchanted, and it's instead just a hammer. But then he has, like, Hela's stupid helmet, which, when the hell did he get that? Because Hela would not have been awoken by this point, so unless he got it millennia ago, when Odin was still romping around with Hela, the T'Challa ripple effect doesn't affect that in any way. I don't know how he has this thing. But I never once thought that her, like, blades that she was summoning
Came from her helmet?
came from her helmet or from anything. I just thought that was her godly power.
I did too, but it's from her helmet. Maybe her helmet gives her godly powers. I don't know. I think,
that's so stupid.
like a lot of this stuff, I think the best thing about this episode as a whole, and kind of, I mean, Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole, is the fact that it's such a big thing, it's such a lucrative thing, that you can get Josh Brolin back in the recording studio, you can get everybody to reprise their roles, except
for Drax.
Except for, I guess, I knew it wasn't Chris Mario Pratt, but I guess I thought it was.
The first time through, did not think Yondu was Michael Rooker. He sounded like someone doing a Michael Rooker impression at the beginning, but then I saw the credits and it was him.
Yeah, I guess I thought that Dave Bautista did Drax.
I only know that he didn't because I saw something where he was complaining that he didn't get asked, and Marvel claimed that everybody had been asked to return.
But at least that was a decent impression, which, I mean, no
and
offense.
it's like 2 lines.
Yeah, no offense, it's like 2 lines. Granted, Peter Quill had like 2 lines, but that guy did a bad job. Boom, I said it. And I mean, some of it is just like I thought Sean Gunn was a little weird in his role, but some of that is probably just, not all actors are great voice actors. And to be fair, I think a lot of people are decent here.
It's also like, it's not like they're really there, like, doing much. Like, he was probably in that booth for maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's only because he probably had to do his 3 lines, like, multiple takes. So they're like, that's the one. He probably came in, just, like, read something.
And he might not
left.
even had to have come in. He, they
Called
might
it over the phone.
They might have done, remote recordings or anything like that. I mean, even if he goes into a recording studio, like, the whole production team might not have, it might have just been him who rented a studio to record lines or whatever they did. But I mean, it's impressive that I thought a lot of them did a decent job.
Mm-hmm. I think it's fine. I thought Karen Gillan was really weird, but I think her Nebula is also just weird in general.
Yeah.
And so I think this was a mixture of Nebula being kind of weirdly stilted and like growly, but then also finding a way to like soften that, but
Because
still
he's a
keep it
different character.
noticeably Nebula. But her lines are weird. I also hated how she kept calling Chala Cha-Cha, and I thought her hair looked weird.
Yes. On all
I think if
counts.
the hair wasn't blonde, if the hair was like blue or purple or something, it probably would have fit better, but it literally looked like she was wearing a stupid wig as a joke.
Well, and it doesn't help that because of the animation style, it didn't feel like hair. It felt fuller than hair would ever get.
Like a Lego minifig clip-on.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's fine. The heist is whatever. It's got the same twisty-turny crap. The Wakandans go into space because T'Challa went into space, and why not? The Wakandans basically had spaceships already anyway. It's whatever.
Yeah. Their plan to like get into the collector's place where they're just like, okay, the Black Order is like the security, so we'll just make a scene and then the entirety
With Thanos, the guy that they would immediately recognize.
Well, no, now they know he's good, so he's just there to visit the museum. But it was just kind of stupid that like Proxima Midnight, they're like, she's the security guard, and there's just like somebody comes over the PA saying, hey, there's a riot. And she's like, okay, well, literally everyone needs to leave. Everyone needs to go deal with, like, you're the Black Order. Isn't, like, can you just have, like, one person deal with it?
Well,
or two?
The Black Order seems significantly less powerful than they were in
Do you think-
Infinity War.
do you think
But I will
T'Challa
also
talked
say,
to
like,
them?
well, I also think that, like, Thanos has RPG boss that joins your party syndrome,
Yeah.
where he feels dramatically underpowered now that he is, like, a good guy as part of the Ravagers.
Well, now that he's trying to do good, he doesn't want to punch people's skulls in. I just thought it was weird that, like, they hinged everything on basically Proxima Midnight leaving her post when it's not like a night shift where she's the only one there.
He's just, well, whichever one wasn't Proxima Midnight was like, there's a riot, everybody come now. And then she's just like, yeah, I guess so. And I kept thinking, like, it'd be one thing if they were like, Thanos is here. And I could see her being like, okay, this
We
is
all have to
probably
go
important.
because this is crazy. But it was just like, hey, there's people outside.
Yeah, they didn't even seem to know it was when everybody's like laying unconscious and they pull over the one guy and they're like, they're Ravagers. And it's like, I mean, Thanos is there. Did you not know he joined the Ravagers? Is this not well known? He was like in a bar with them. He's kind of hard to miss. I don't know. Like I said, it's fine. I didn't know what happened at the end when Nebula makes the one guy eat like seeds. She's like, suck on this. And she throws some seeds in his mouth. And
Yeah,
then
and then it
like
grows.
it like overtakes all of nowhere. Maybe at some point they explain those seeds and
They
where she
didn't.
got them, because that felt like it was out of fucking nowhere. And I was like, am I supposed to know this from like a movie thing where I would have like recognized that from a thing? Because I had no idea. I was like, is that supposed to be like a Groot seed? As far as I know, they never explain it. She just like chucks it in his mouth and then vines grow everywhere and it overtakes all of nowhere.
Yeah, it was something like some like Eden berry or something that they were getting.
Oh, is that what they came there for?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't even know
I mean,
that.
they don't explain it. And the
When they
fact
show
that
it,
can-
it looked like a giant crystal that they were going to get, but it's also like, it was just like a purple hologram or something. And
Yeah. Because, then she, like, when she rescues them out of the jail, and she's like, it was a quadruple, triple cross. And she's like, this is what we came here to get. And it was, like, the green
okay.
container thing. And that's when she's like, have some Tic Tacs.
But they came to get it, then she just shoves it in a guy's mouth anyway.
Not all of it, just a couple.
Oh.
Then later they throw it into a sun or something, and it makes the world happy.
And then they go back to Wakanda. And
How stupid is this? I hate it.
And then they
It's
all
not
have
even
like a
that
big
bad.
stupid party where they all hang out with each other. And T'Challa tells,
And say one-liners.
and then Thanos tells T'Challa's mommy about how he wanted to murder everybody but like half of everybody. And then she's like, that sounds like genocide. And he's like, no, this is fine. And then Nebula is there hilariously acting like a teenage daughter who just can't deal with her dad's shit right now. So embarrassing.
Fan fiction. It's so bad.
Like I said, it's weird. This episode's fine. It's also super fucking fan fiction-y, and I kind of hate it.
How about when Chala goes home and a big spaceship comes down and all these space aliens show up, and then his dad is just like, yeah, I totally know it's you. You're my son, who I haven't seen for 20 years. Totally know it's you.
But he also knew his son was in space. So
I guess that's fair. How?
And he was wearing the necklace. He was wearing the necklace with the claws.
How did he know he went to space?
They probably
script tell
detected...
him?
I will say, like, Wakanda probably had, like, I don't know, security cameras or some bullshit that saw a UFO.
How about when Chala's 6? He's just, like, throwing a spear and running after it. And he throws
Didn't you do that when you were 6?
No, I hit fucking trees with baseball bats, pretending they were swords like a normal person.
The tree or the bat?
Both. I was fighting animated swords. And then he throws it through, like, the barrier shell and acts confused. Like, oh, I didn't realize that if I kept throwing it in a straight line, I'd hit the barrier. It's minor. That's stupid. You don't have anything to say. Just cut it.
Anyway, Ego also shows up at Dairy Queen where Quill is a loser janitor. And, like, I think that bit's fun. I think Peter Quill is a
good.
fucking dipshit. And so leaning hard into his dipshittiness, I think it would be... Okay, I think this episode's fine. I think a more fun episode for me is an episode where it was like, what if Peter Quill didn't become Star-Lord and we just watched him being like a shitty jackass on Earth until his dad shows up.
See, you know, I think this little conclusion bit is that. I don't know if there's much there to say, but like I really like the
I'm just saying, like, I think that's the idea that's more fun.
Where at the end, Ego just shows up and he's just like, "Hey, I'm your dear old dad," and then the Watcher's just like, "Also, the universe blows up." Also, in this reality, the universe blows up because that's what Ego does. And credits.
So, Seth, give me 2 put-ups and a put-down.
Well, my first put-up, like I was just saying, I think that ending is good. I saw Kurt Russell's name in the opening credits, and I kept wondering, like, when they were going to meet Ego, and I was like, how is he going to come in? Like,
he's too big. He's a whole planet.
Is Chala's mom going to be Ego? Because we see his dad at the... You know what I mean? Like, we see his dad at the beginning, and I'm just like, is Chala's mom Ego?
What if T'Challa's mom was Ego?
Yeah, tell me that tale. Spin me that yarn. So I kept wondering when he would show up, and he didn't, and then at the end, he's just like, hey, Peter, I'm Ego. And Peter's like, what now? And then the Watcher's just like, the universe blows up. The end. I was like, that's good. That was a good ending. Because it was nice to kind of see, like, hey, this is what if this happened. And because that happened, like...
Shit gets real.
Shit gets real. Yeah, like, it's like...
Look at all this great stuff happen, but there's still consequences.
Yeah, like, because they didn't do that, like, Ego shows up and gets his way and blows up the world. Like, that's fun. My second put up is going to be... It's stupid that the Collector has all that stuff. And as much as I complained about, like, this is an episode of references, I wish we would have gone through more references with, like, a fight where the Collector just kind of, like, uses a bunch of weapons we know. I don't know. There's some decent fun in that, where he just kind of, like, acts as the mystery random fighter, who every time you pick him, he has a different moveset.
Yeah, I think my version of that is, I wish that T'Challa's team was more varied. Like, we see Howard, the duck.
Yeah,
I think
but only
it'd be
as
more
a
fun.
bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is I feel like it would have been more fun if we just like open up and the Ravagers are like a completely, like the Guardians of the Galaxy are a completely different team. It's just like, here's Howard and Cosmo and, you know, Drax can be there too or whatever. And just like, but instead it's just like, here's a bunch of Ravagers we don't care about. I think Taserface is there.
Yeah.
And whatever is it, Kraglin. And then, you know, Thanos is the biggest divergence they really do, and then like the guard that I don't care about who is obnoxious as shit.
But it's just kind of something where it's like, yeah, it's like, what if Chala was a Ravager? Not necessarily like, what if Chala was Star-Lord, the leader of the Guardians?
But even still, like, they add a couple people to the Ravagers. I don't know, add some more interesting people.
Well, and it doesn't help
Howard
that,
in there.
Like, the Ravagers team is kind of nothing, because they don't really do anything, and the only thing they do is, like...
do.
The evil that they do. Like, Thanos punches people. Like, everybody kind of just punches people, except for Nebula, I guess. But, like, none of them do anything interesting. And I guess it's because it's like, it's not what if Kraglin was actually Cosmo. It's just like too focused on goody goody Chala.
Anyway, I think I interrupted your second put up.
Yeah, my second put up is like the little fight where Collector uses a whole bunch of weapons. My put down is going to be, for better or for worse, there's a lot of stuff in here that I didn't quite like and bothered me, but I don't think anything was like standout, or at least I've forgotten it since we started an hour from now and talked for like 30 minutes. I'm going to say my put down is I don't like how everyone is completely chained. It's gross fan fiction. It's just kind of like there's no substance here because Thanos being on the team isn't all that interesting because he just kind of like he's a different character.
And I think his different character could be interesting, but in this it's just like, look, it's Thanos, but he's not the Thanos you knew. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, moving on.
Well, and he's not even like he's a weird thing where again, Chala says sometimes a good weapon is a good argument or whatever he says. And like the whole thing is that Chala convinced Thanos not to do the snap. And we don't know any context within that. We don't know if he was like, don't gather the Infinity Stone. Basically just like, don't disappear half of the world or half the universe. And it works. And Thanos is like, yep, I'm a bad guy. I'm going to be a good guy now. And like, yada, yada, yada. But he still has to make jokes and be like, it's not genocide. Like, he's still interested in that. So Chala didn't talk him out of it, and it's just one of those things where it's like, he's not the one-track mind Thanos from the movies, because he would ultimately collect the Infinity Stones and do that. But in this, he's just like, what did Chala say to him? That he was just like, I still agree with it, but I won't do it because you're just such a good guy. Let's hang out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's my put down and I'll actually just, because we went on this little tangent about Thanos, I'll actually say my put down is Thanos, and that you can't just sit there and be like, I talked Thanos out of being evil, and he's not, but he still kind of is, but like nobody cares
Thanos
anymore.
wasn't Seth, didn't you watch the movie Thanos Wasn't Evil? Remember when he was in his hut at the beginning of Endgame?
Oh.
And he was like, I just wanted to save the universe because there weren't enough resources. I'm not evil, I'm complicated. Remember.
How come Chala didn't tell him to just fucking snap twice as much food into the world?
But then at the end, he turns into a stupid villain who like goes for revenge and fights all the heroes. So it's kind of like,
but he has a gold
like
suit.
The Black Panther thing where, yeah, he also gets a gold suit, and he's like, I'm a complicated villain with complicated motivations, but also like now I need to be the evil Black Panther, like color swap for our Mortal Kombat fight in the mines.
Okay, Andrew, this is the most we've talked in any put up and put down, so you say yours and I'll jump in on there.
My first put up is, I also like the ending with Peter. I like the idea of seeing Peter being a piece of shit. I guess he's not a piece of shit, but just like kind of a loser burnout.
Also that Dairy Queen sponsorship.
Because I don't like Peter, and I think that's a fun little gag and a fun little like, ripple effect that actually makes sense, as opposed to all the other ripple effects that are just like, now he's got what's-her-face's helmet and it can make him shoot knives. My second put up is, there is specifically a shot during the Collector fight when they knock him into the cage at the end, where it's like a dynamic like comic book panel thing where he's like, it's like high contrast or something, or like
the whole show is high contrast.
And it's just, I don't know. That shot was fun.
I did like to jump in there and say something different that we haven't mentioned yet. I did like when Thanos loses and they just like keep smashing his hammer on his back and the camera pulls back each time.
I mean, I think this one is actually like the first one. I think there's some good animated scenes and some
the
fun
animation
stuff.
didn't bug me as much as it did in the first one. I'm not sure what it was. I don't know if it was just like, now I'm used to it, but
my put down, I mean, the same as you. It's you honed in on Thanos, but it's fan fiction. I think the episode itself is fine. Nothing really to write home about, but nothing really bad in and of itself. But it's so fan fiction-y.
A lot of the substance is fan fiction that it takes away.
So much of it is just like pointing and looking at, like saying, look at this thing. You remember this thing. And then also just like characters not being who they are. T'Challa is a completely different Star-Lord, but he's also a completely different T'Challa. So I'm not really seeing the ripple effect of like, what if this person had a different role? Instead, it was just like, what if this person had a different life experience and basically became a completely different person? And so I'm not only watching a different Star-Lord, I'm watching a different T'Challa. He's not the same man. And that's fine. Like, I'm not going to say that, like, getting abducted at 6 years old or whatever and taken to space isn't going to change you. He's not as, like, he absolutely probably would grow up to be someone different.
But it is a weird thing for, like, a what if series.
Yeah, that's what this is going off of, though. This isn't saying, like, look at how he's a different person when he goes to space. This is saying, like, look at how, if he had the life of someone else, how he would have made it a difference. And I feel like that's its big...
It's not answering the right question.
In many ways, this is a better version of my problems with Loki. I feel like it's a lot of, like, pointing at things and not really understanding what they mean or what they say or what they do. And I think that's really where it falls apart for me.
Thanks for hanging out with us. If you like this, tell a friend. If you didn't, then lie to a friend. Check us out on Twitter at SoHowAbout. You can find me on Twitter at SethKumpf. You can find Andrew on Twitter at TessuDownist. And subscribe to us on YouTube at SoHowAbout.
And join us next time when we do this once more with Interference.
Watcher.
Seth, now that the mics are off,
Well,
what are we
Andrew, I'm
watching
glad
next time?
you asked.
I grin every time you cut me off.
I don't know why
That's
I made
my
that
favorite
a thing.
part.
I don't know why I made that a thing. You know what I don't like about these is that, like, okay, next time we're gonna watch What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes, and I'm like, what's my bit? like because they're posed as questions, I'm just like, I assume the world's gonna lose its mightiest heroes. Like, how can I twist that? You know what I mean?
Next time we'll watch What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes, in which all the firefighters and paramedics get snapped away by the snap. 50% of all of everybody.
Is this a COVID joke?
No. But now that you say that, I'm gonna cut this whole thing out.
That's
You're
good.
right.
That's good. Yeah, it's a little bad taste. Gotta get that taste out of my mouth. Gotta get that big swig of water. It's gross in my mouth. Filthy. Filthy.
Next time we're gonna watch What If Episode 3: The World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes, in which I assume T'Challa is no longer a Star-Lord. Are they losing its mightiest heroes or a mightiest heroes?
That joke doesn't even work.
That's
only
why it's funny.
because-
That's why it's so funny. Ooh. Actually, this kind of sounds good. It's probably going to suck.